For you masters who are planning on making prospecting part of your 2017 goals, our friends over at LandVoice, they are the providers of numbers for sale by owners, expireds, circle prospecting, neighborhood searches, as well as call capture, are offering my listeners a special opportunity to try their services. First month, you sign up 1 month, it costs you $30. I mean, talk about that investment. $30, try it out. If you love it, you keep going. If you don't, then you move on. Another thing, their whole bundle, guys, is a $1,400 a year investment. Through the end of the year, they're offering it for $699. That's right, $699. So if that's part of your 2017 plan, right away go to davidihill.com, click the blog link, go down to the blog, and you'll have all those links so that you can take advantage of these great opportunities.
Get ready for one more sale, inspiring you with ideas through powerful and engaging interviews with top performers of their field. Now, join us as we discuss techniques and strategies of the coolest and most successful people on the planet.
What up, Masters? It's David Hill here with another episode of Path to Mastery. Episode, my friends, number 41. Before we get there, though, I just want to wish you an amazing holiday. No matter what holiday you celebrate, I just hope it's awesome for you. That said, I'm bringing you a special gift this week. We have Brian Tracy. I know you know the name. I mean, Brian's been doing this forever. This guy's written over 70 books on productivity in 42 different languages. I mean, Eat That Frog. I mean, that's the book that, if any motivational workshop you go to or any seminar, they're still talking about that book. I mean, that is phenomenal. And Brian talks to us about the power of knowing exactly what you want and then how, by doing that first, you're able to achieve that. He talks about written goals and you know, this isn't stuff I know you've heard this stuff before, and shutting off all those distractions and planning time with yourself. And the really cool thing that I really love is he talks to us about how all of us are typically just one skill away from doubling our income. I mean, how cool is that? One simple skill. So listen, we have time with Brian, man. I hope you enjoy it. Share it. Give me feedback. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And again, I just want you to have a phenomenal holiday. And if you're interested, by the way, doing Advocare 24-day challenge, January 2nd. I'd love to have you join me. You can go to my website for that is livelongersmarter.com, and it's a cleanse. I mean, it's 24 days. First 10 days is a cleanse. Second 2 weeks is just about eating a healthy nutrition, supplements. A friend of mine actually did this, lost 17 pounds and 4 inches in 24 days. So I know a lot of us plan 2017 is coming. We've got our health goals. We're going to get to the gym, all that good stuff. So what better way to jumpstart that than the 24-day challenge? So if you want to join me, I'd love to be part of it. We're going to create a Facebook page, support each other, and just have an awesome time. Again, livelongersmarter.com. My friends, enjoy the interview, share, and have a phenomenal holiday. Hey, Masters, welcome to another episode of One More Sale, Path to Mastery. Special treat with you guys. Listen, I am with a legend today. We are with Brian Tracy. Hey, Brian, what's going on?
Well, busy as can be. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us. Again, you know, I've been following your books for years, and you are, like I said, one of the legends when it comes to your personal development and business and focus. And I absolutely love your new book. It's called Master Your Time, Master Your Life. And can you tell us a little bit about that book, Brian?
Well, I started writing on time management about 30 years ago. And what I did is I read everything that had been written on the subject, and then I synthesized it into an audio program called Time Management for Results, which became literally the best-selling audio program on time management in history. And I'm happy to say, it put every other time management program out of business. And later I was asked by major New York publishers to write the best ideas into books. So now I am the best-selling author on time management in the world in 42 languages. And it's never been my intention to write on time management, but what I found was that if the time management is really life management, if you get your time under control, you get everything else under control. And if you don't, then you can dramatically underachieve and underaccomplish in life.
Yeah, and there's so much that you get into in the book in regards to what you just talked about. The place I want to start is goal setting. In the beginning, you talk about goal setting, and how to effectively set a goal. And I've read the book from cover to cover. I'm on my second time going through. Absolutely love it. It's all about, like you said, productivity, time management. Let's talk about goals, though. I mean, one of the exercises, come up with your 10 annual goals, and then you come up with your top 1 or
Right.
3. Tell us about that exercise.
Well, it's an exercise that I stumbled upon when I was about 24, and I don't even know where I came up with it, but I read something that said if you want to accomplish anything in life, you have to have goals. So I took out a piece of paper, and at this time I was broke. I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's one-room apartment, and I took out a piece of paper. I found a piece of paper. I wrote down 10 goals that I wanted to accomplish in the indefinite future. And within 30 days, I'd accomplished 9 out of the 10 goals. And I'd lost the list, but I remembered everything that I'd written down, I accomplished. And that turned me into a lifelong goal setter. And so since then, I've studied and read everything I could find for decades on goal setting. I even decided to get into strategic planning because that's a form of corporate goal setting. And I began to study strategy. And I've now done strategic planning programs, 2, 3, 4, 5 days for some of the biggest companies in the world. And it brings about changes of hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars in results because the focus, the power of focus, knowing exactly what you want and having a plan to achieve it, saves you about 90% of the time it would normally take you to achieve the same goal.
So let me ask you on that, because I did the exercise as soon as I picked up the book. And one thing that became really clear for me was, when you write down the 10 goals, you start to prioritize like which goals are going to be the most important, and also which of the goals are going to help you actually to get to the other goals. Is that part of it?
Well, first of all, people say, well, I have goals. And we find that only 3% of adults have written goals. All the rest have wishes. And people confuse a wish with a goal. So they say, oh, yeah, I have goals. I want to be rich and I want to be thin and I want to be successful and I want to be happy and so on. But I say people in mental institutions in straitjackets have the same illusions, the same wishes. But these are not goals. It'd be like saying, well, I want to build a beautiful house. Well, what would it look like? Well, I've got it all in my mind. So let's just begin construction. I've got it all in my mind. You think this person must be an idiot. You wouldn't even try to build a birdhouse without a blueprint. And yet 97% or more of people are trying to build a life without a blueprint. So the goal setting process is write down what you want. And I worked with people for 35 years on this. It's astonishing how many people say, well, I know exactly what I want. Give them a blank sheet of paper and a pen and say, all right, write it down. And they sit there and look at the blank sheet of paper for 30 minutes. They really they were just shocked. They said, well, I can't write it down. I don't really know what I want. And so they've been working the same number of hours every day, weeks, months, years, and accomplishing very little, always in debt, always worried about money and so on. And they never, ever took the time to decide what they really wanted. So that's what this 10-goal exercise does. I tell people, if I only had 5 minutes to talk to you, I come onto the stage, I say, take a piece of paper, write down 10 goals you'd like to accomplish in the next 12 months, and then select the one goal that would have the greatest positive impact on your life, and then start to work on that goal and work on it every day, 7 days a week until it's accomplished. That simple exercise I just told you turns out to be life-changing. There's 100 years of research that many people say they went from rags to riches with that simple exercise.
So what about the other 9 goals that we wrote down? Are we just ignoring those 9 goals, or how do those come into play?
Well, there's several areas. I say that in goal setting, you have goals with regard to your business and your career and your income, goals with regard to your family and your relationships, goals with regard to your health, and goals with regard to your ultimate financial independence. And there are 4 different sets of goals. So you can have lots of different goals, but you've got to be clear which goal is most important. And then you make sure that you work on that. But the good news is, as you start to make progress on your most important goal, you start to move forward almost unconsciously on all your other goals. You start to make progress without even realizing it.
That's what I noticed is it seems like as I focus on the top goal, all the other things are just kind of happening. So that's phenomenal. And the other thing that you talk about, and probably the reason most of us don't achieve our goals, even after we write them down, Brian, is distractions. And you talk a lot about that in the book as well. Distractions like Facebook, email. As a matter of fact, I think you call it email disease.
Yeah, well, actually, it's called the attraction of distraction. We call it electronic interruptions, email disease. more and more, because there are so many distractions, people are actually having their lives destroyed around them because they simply cannot focus. I talk about this. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were asked at a party, what are the most important requirements for success or qualities? And they both said, focus. If you cannot focus clearly on one thing at one time and complete it, you cannot accomplish anything. And so that's why you have to be crystal clear about what you want and then focus on that one thing. And that changes your whole life. It's a very simple thing, and it may be in this book, but basically it says that all success in life comes from task completion. And not from task working on, but from completing important tasks. And if you are constantly distracted by electronic interruptions, then you can never complete an important task.
And you even talk about it as being an addiction, right? Like people are addicted to it. I think you talked about how it makes people feel.
Yeah. Well, there's so much research on this now, all the way up to Harvard Business Review. But many magazines and articles have studied the fact that each time you respond to an email interruption, your brain shoots out a jolt of dopamine. And dopamine is triggered whenever something interesting or fun or novel or different or amusing comes into your mind. It triggers dopamine. So if you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is you check your email, first thing you do is you take a shot of dopamine. And then for the rest of the day, you're basically responding almost automatically to email and telephone interruptions. Every time they go off, you immediately stop everything you're doing. This dopamine shoots through your brain like a lightning bolt, and you instantly stop. Your mind goes blank. In the middle of a conversation, your mind goes blank, and you instantly turn to check on the latest electronic interruption. Pretty soon it gets to the point where the average adult, and there's many studies on this, 2 studies I read, one says that the average adult checks their email 95 times a day. And the other study says that the average adult checks their email 145 times a day. They literally walk around with their phone in their hand, checking their email. They can't carry on a conversation. I see this in my seminars. People pay an enormous amount of money and travel a great distance to come to a seminar. And you see them there, and they are hunched over, focused almost like a laser beam on their screen. They can't stop watching the screen. They can't take notes. They can't pay attention. They're just on the screen all day. And I point this out to them. I said, you should know, those of you who are checking your email, that it makes it impossible for you to learn anything here. In fact, you might as well go out into the hallway and sit, because this seminar, workshop, whatever it is a complete waste of time to you. And they can't stop.
So I was going to say, so we're all drawn to our mobile devices to an extent. What do you say to somebody, though, where, most people probably aren't even aware they're doing it, and then they may become aware, but they can't resist, like you said, an addiction. What would you say to that person? Like, how do they stop that?
Leave it off. One of the great secrets for success is leave things off. And if they are on, turn them off and then leave them off. So what you do, and more people are coming to this, and there's lots of research. So it basically is discipline yourself to check your email 3 times a day. Check it at 11 o'clock, check it at 2 o'clock, check it at 5. And have a little message saying that I check my email 3 times a day. If you have sent me an emergency message, please phone this number. And 99 out of 10 times, nobody will ever phone.
That's a great point, my friend. Have an autoresponder, as a matter of fact, on your email. So when people email you, they know that's when you check email. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about another one of your legendary books. I tell you, it comes up. What year did you write Eat That Frog?
I think it's 2006.
2006. Okay. It still comes up. I was at an event last week. I heard it. Seth Godin was being interviewed by James Altucher on a podcast. He brought it up last week. It just keeps coming up. And, the book is about just completing those most important tasks, right? The top tasks. Tell us about the book. What's the essence of that book?
I sat down a few years ago, and I decided I could distill the essence of almost any subject into 21 ideas. And actually, it started many years ago when I was asked by a head of a large international company if I would do a talk on how to become a self-made millionaire for his 800 company owners. So I said, sure. And I began doing, actually what turned into a lifetime of research on self-made millionaires. And what I find is that they all have certain qualities in common. And so I began to read the research and look at the studies and write them out. And I came up with the 21 success secrets of self-made millionaires. And I designed it as a 1-hour seminar talk. And I gave it as a talk for 1 hour. But what I found that people said, there's so much information in that. Could you expand it to 90 minutes or a quarter of a day or to a half a day to a full day? I eventually gave that talk all over the world as a full day seminar, The 21 Success Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires, and then recorded it and then wrote it as a book. And it's now gone into multiple languages worldwide. And what happened with these 21 ideas, and I'm coming back to the point, is that many people have come up to me over the years and said, that book made me rich. I just began reading that book. And, you become what you listen to, you become what you learn, you become what you think about. And I went from basically struggling financially for years to becoming a millionaire and a multimillionaire. So with regard to the book, I said, well, I could write down the 21 most important principles on time management, since I'd done so much work on it. And I said, no, what is the greatest desire that people have? And that's to overcome procrastination. So I came up with the title, 21 Great Ways to Overcome Procrastination and Get More Things Done Faster. And I sent it off to the publisher, and the publisher said, well, one of the chapters is called Eat That Frog, which is explained in the book. And if you were to take that and make that the title of the book and then run that theme through the book, just like Who Moved My Cheese or Fish or these other books that used an animal, then we could publish it. So I said, all right. So I called it Eat That Frog, 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Things Done Faster. And then I wrote the 21 chapters, 21 different ways that you can plan and organize your life. And it became and is the best-selling book on time management in the world.
Yeah, it comes up all the time, Brian, all the time. And let me ask you this. I mean, so why do people, when it comes to that, why do people get so caught up on all the less important things? Or maybe like a lot of people always want to complete that list. Like, if you get that huge list, that task list, why do people are so stuck on that?
Well, people get distracted. Remember, the ability to focus and to concentrate are not natural abilities. They have to be learned through practice. Earl Nightingale said many years ago, he said that concentration does not guarantee that you will be successful at something, but the inability to concentrate absolutely guarantees that you will fail. And so my three words, and I do sort of mini seminars around this, are clarity, focus, and concentration. Clarity means you must be absolutely clear about your goals, the steps to achieve your goals, and then the priorities and the order of priorities, because something is always more important than something else. And then second of all, you have to focus on a single goal. You can't keep stopping and starting and coming back to it and so on. It takes you, if you are working on a task, it takes, according to the most recent research, about 17 minutes for you, after checking your email, to come back to that task. It takes you that long to get your mind focused again. And so if you leave everything off, and I found this very early in my time management studies, you can actually reduce the amount of time it takes to complete a task by 80%. Or you can increase the amount of time by 400%. If you simply work on the task single-mindedly until it's done, you'll get it done in 20% of the time. But if you keep stopping and starting and coming back, it'll take you 5 times as long to do the same task.
I love that. So I'm a One Thing certified trainer, and we have an example. We're sharing how someone's composing a very important email. Somebody comes in, distracts them, so now they have to pull away from the email, focus on the person in front of them, answer their question, and by the time they get back to the email, like you said, it's about 17 minutes to refocus.
Yep. And then you go back and reread it to find out where they were. And then in the middle, bing. Every time there's a bing or a bleep or a sound or a noise that distracts you, it's almost like a disconnect. You basically become disconnected from your previous train of thought. Then you have to go all the way back and catch it up and pick it up again.
You are listening to One More Sale.
So let's talk about time in assessment, like planning time you talk about in your latest book, Master Your Time, Master Your Life. It's such an important time that I think most of us just don't take advantage of or ignore. What do you have to say about that time with ourselves, thinking, planning?
Well, this is some of the most valuable time of your life. One of the things that I teach, I've just written another book called Get Smart. And what it does is it talks about the 10 different ways of thinking that top people use as opposed to average people. And what it says is at the beginning is that thinking is the most important work you do. And the more you think before you take action, the more likely it is you're going to be successful when you do take action. So you'll find that all the best and most successful and highest paid people are very good planners. It's a simple thing, but you could just miss one thing, one idea, one piece of information because you were in such a hurry. And that lack of that one piece of information can cause you to fail. It can cause you to invest weeks and months and years and cause you to fail because you didn't check or double check a piece of information. My favorite 2 words in business are the words due diligence. And what I have found is that the number one reason why we fail to achieve the kind of financial success we desire is we don't do enough thinking, or we don't do enough research on the subject before we invest our time and our money. And so I've worked with people, millionaires and multimillionaires and even multi-billionaires, and I watch the way that they approach life, and they are very fastidious about details. You know that Warren Buffett spends 80% of his time reading and studying the details of his business? He goes into work and he spends 80% of every day just reading and referencing and checking and double checking the details before he makes a decision. And that's made him the most successful investor in human history. So it's a little thing like that, just checking and double checking. You know, a good question is always, how do you know that that's true? If we invest in this or we do this, we can sell this much and we can get this. But look at all the companies that fail, and far more companies fail than succeed. Almost invariably, it's because they missed a critical detail. They just bypassed it. They ignored it, or they just took it on somebody else's word. So that's why you'll find that if a company buys another company, they do due diligence. And so you say company A is buying company B, it's going to take them about 6 months to do their due diligence, which means they're going to check through every single penny, every single detail of that other company's finances before they make a final decision. Hewlett-Packard bought a company. It almost caused Hewlett-Packard to go bankrupt. I think the company's called Anonymous, a British software company, and they had fabulous profit reports and fabulous annual reports and details and everything else. And Hewlett-Packard very quickly rushed into it because they wanted to diversify. They paid $9 billion for it, and within 6 months, they had to write it off at zero. There's still huge lawsuits going on. What they found was that the people they bought the company from, that's what they say, had exaggerated the sales and the profits. So it was much higher that they had multiplied these profits out and multiplied at times the additional customers and so on. It turned out that the basic number was false. It cost them $9 billion that almost broke Hewlett-Packard, one of the biggest companies in the world, just because they did not do enough research.
So let's talk about the time now spent, because I know in the book you had mentioned for like every 1 minute investing, it saves you 10 to 12 minutes. I think the example was for like if you invest 10 minutes in thinking time, it equals 120 minutes of productive time.
Right. So basically we say you can plan your entire day in 10 minutes. And if you do that, make a list of everything you have to do and then organize it by priority, which is fairly quick and easy to do, then you will find that you will save 2 hours of work. You'll get 2 hours more productive work done by simply taking the time to write out your to-do list for the day before you start. And so you'll find that they did a review of 50 of the founders of Inc. 500 companies. These are the fastest growing small and medium-sized companies in America. And they asked them, what time management system do you use? 49 out of the 50 used a pad of paper and a pen. They said, this is my time management system. And with that, they were building the fastest growing, most profitable companies in the world. But they refused to do anything before they wrote it down on a list and wrote it down and compared it with the other things on the list to make sure that whatever they did, it was the most important thing at that moment.
I love that. And I think it brings us right back to how we started this interview with goals, because I have those 10 goals written down and I've circled the top 1 or 2 or 3, maybe even 3 is too many now after talking to you. But it really helps me to understand which ones are priority and which ones I really don't have to even focus on anymore. So that said, you said in the book as well, most people are one skill away from doubling their income. I mean, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, how do I know what skill that is?
Well, the point that I make is that you are probably, or you could very likely be one skill away. Well, so let me give you an example. I say, take your biggest goal, the goal that is more important to you than anything else. And I'm speaking here to business people about financial goals, because for most of us, financial goals are pretty important. I say then, imagine that you could wave a magic wand and overnight you could be absolutely outstanding at any one skill, almost like you could take a magic pill and you'd wake up the next morning and you'd be absolutely excellent at that skill. Then I say that what one skill, if you could be absolutely excellent at it overnight, would help you the most to double your income? What one skill? And I've asked this of tens of thousands of people, and there's always an answer. And everybody always knows the answer. And it's the most amazing thing. I say, so you pick one goal and realize that in order to achieve a goal that you've never achieved before, you're going to have to develop a skill that you've never had before. You cannot achieve any goals with the number of skills or the level of skill that you have currently. If you could, you would already have done it. So therefore, you're going to have to become somebody new. You're going to have to develop skills that you don't have. So what is the one skill that would help you the most to double your income? And I say, now write it down and explain it to the person next to you. And then do one more thing. After this seminar, double check it with the people that you work with. Because the worst thing you can do is to come up with the wrong answer and say, well, if I was really good at this, then that would help me the most. Well, it may not be true. So I take people through a series of exercises. I say right at the beginning of my seminars, I say, how many people here would like to double their income? And almost everybody raises their hand. I say, good, well, I'll give you 6 or 7 different ways to double your income over the course of the day. And if you will follow any one of these, absolutely guaranteed you'll double your income, and probably far faster than you can imagine. And they're very, very skeptical. And over the course of the days, like dealing cards, I just say, oh, by the way, here's a way to double your income. And I toss it out there and I explain how it works. And nobody ever argues. And that's one of them right there. If you became absolutely excellent at the most important skill in your profession, you'd probably double your income because you double your productivity, double your results, you double your output, you double your sales, you double whatever it happens to be if you became very good in one skill. Now, maybe you need to become good in 1 or 2 or 3 skills, but often there's just one. For instance, in sales, is getting more appointments with better prospects is a very simple way to double your income. And I say to people, they come up to me, and I speak to a lot of people who are in sales. We're all in sales. I say, how much are you earning today? Just keep that number in your mind. And then ask yourself this question: how many calls or how many new people do you speak to each day? And I'll point out that most salespeople don't know because they don't keep track. The top salespeople keep an accurate track. 1, 2, 3, 4, stroke. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many new people they speak to each day? How many people they see each day? How many people they follow up on each day? How many sales they make each day or week? How much they earn per sale? How much they get commission and so on. But they keep track. So they're very clear about what a sale means. And so I say, okay, well, if you are earning everything that you're earning today, and the average salesperson, by the way, full-time professional salesperson, in one study makes approximately 2 calls a day. It's 2 a day. That's 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And all the rest of the time, they're falling prey to electronic distractions. And they're talking to their friends, and they're reading the paper, and they're driving around listening to the radio, and they're going for lunch and so on. But they're only calling, and I call this FaceTime, getting face-to-face, head-to-head, knee-to-knee with 2 new people a day. And that's the average. So half are below that, half are above. I know salespeople who I've assessed their activities, they're only making 2 calls a week. And they say, well, they're so busy all week long, they just don't have time to make any more than 2 calls a week. And I say, well, think about what you just said. And they say, yes, but I have to check so many things, and I have to get so many things organized, and I'm working on a brochure. I said, no. I said, if you're not doing something that is revenue generating, you're officially unemployed. You might as well go home to bed and pull the sheets up over your head and go back to sleep, because you're of no value to yourself or anybody else. So I say, if you're making all the income that you're earning today by making 2 calls a day, and let's say you are, then just make 4 calls a day.
Well, the good news is our listeners are real estate agents, Brian, and we're all making 20 contacts a day. So we're talking to 20 people a day. So maybe we need to talk to 40. So I have 2 more questions. I know you're on a tight schedule. First off, anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
The most important thing is not knowing about these skills, is having the discipline to use them. So the key is this: pick one time management skill and just focus on that. Don't try to develop a whole bunch at once. Just pick one. And maybe the first one should be, don't check your email before 11 a.m. in the morning. Just get up in the morning and go straight to work. Get busy, get organized, start phoning people, start contacting people, but stop checking your email and leave it off. Now, that is so hard to do. People will just cringe when you tell them that because they're addicted, almost like a chemical addiction. The idea of not checking their email actually makes them physically ill because they're so connected to it. Other than that, just say, all right, I'm going to talk to twice as many people each day. And if you say everybody on this call is speaking to 20 people a day, good, increase it to 40. Or how could you increase the quality? Remember I said spend more time with better prospects. So how could you talk to better prospects? Same 20, but better prospects, ones that are much more likely to buy, ones that are from referrals. And you know all of this. I've been in real estate industry all my life. My son is in residential real estate. He comes in each morning at 8:30 and he makes 50 calls before he has lunch. He makes 50 calls. He calls FSBOs and he calls expired listings and he calls from the newspaper. He makes 50 calls every day. And he's managing to be very successful starting from cold start because he makes his calls disciplined. He's got a very good manager, makes 50 calls every day. So just do what you know you need to do, but just pick one. Just pick one skill, one habit that could help you more than anything else, and discipline yourself to do only that until it's done.
Love it. So get rid of those distractions, focus on one thing, figure out what your top priority is, and focus on it. And I affirm that everybody's making 20 calls a day, Brian. I have to imagine maybe not not all of them are. So that said, the podcast, and I appreciate you being a guest, spending time with us. How do our listeners get in touch with you?
Just go to briantracy.com. Actually, we offer a lot of free things on briantracy.com, and one is a complete goal-setting guide so that you can just download it at no charge and basically determine your goals for your life and for each part of your life, and the most important things you can do, and develop an action plan. And it's all there, and it's really quite life-transforming. So go to briantracy.com and walk around the store. We've got lots of free things.
Love it. Thank you, my friend. And final question is, the podcast is called One More Sale, Path to Mastery. So on our listeners' path to sales mastery, what is the one thing they need to take from this interview and implement on their path to sales mastery?
And the answer is to take action immediately.
Love it. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you're anything like me and you love podcasts, I guarantee you're going to love audiobooks. And audible.com is the largest resource of audiobooks. I'm super excited about my partnership with audible.com, where I can offer you a free audiobook. All you have to do is simply go to www.davidsfreebook.com and sign up, and you get yourself a free book. Yes, absolutely free, never charged, no membership. If you love the service, then obviously continue using it, but this is completely free. Again, www.davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a free audiobook and enjoy.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of The Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.